Roses are red. The Panthers wear blue. Chuba Hubbard's rushing yards.
Woo.
We won't be taxing you.
He's from Canada, y'all. Hey, Canada might be the 51st state, but Chuba, you're first in our heart.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. You're number one running back. We're going to write some Valentines. Let's get the sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. It's Valentine's Day is coming up this week, so we're gonna have some Valentines for some Panthers players. Chris has worked hard on writing some Valentines for some of your favorite Panthers players. We're also going to talk about how the Panthers are going to approach this offseason when it comes to the draft, especially when you look at the team that just won the Super Bowl and how they've constructed the roster and how the Carolina Panthers can follow that same blueprint. But Chris, it's the season of love. It's the offseason.
Before we get into our Valentines for the Panthers,
Sure.
I want to take down the fourth wall a little bit, Dennis.
Okay. All right.
Any special plans for Valentine's Day this weekend? Or are you just playing it a little low key? What are your thoughts on Valentine's Day?
You know, my girlfriend and I are going out to dinner on Thanksgiving evening. So we got a reservation at a restaurant downtown. Thanksgiving, good Lord.
Because my man is going to be eating. My man is going to be eating, okay?
Darn right he is. At a restaurant in downtown Raleigh.
Downtown exactly.
Raleigh.
That's what
definitely going to be doing that.
That's what we mean.
So you're doing that on Friday night for Valentine's Day. So that is our plans, and I got her a couple small gifts, and we got some. She can hear me right now. I don't want to spoil everything.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're in the house. You're in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, man. I got a nice little night planned for me and my wife. I love Valentine's Day. I'm one of the few guys that I know who likes Valentine's Day. So it makes me excited. I really, why not be romantic? People say, oh, Valentine's Day is every day. No, it's not, because you don't do that stuff every day.
No, you don't.
You don't.
Like you don't do Thanksgiving every day.
You don't. You're not eating Thanksgiving meals every single day. So, so you can have a day where you make your woman feel special. She makes you feel special, and you just have a great time together in your love.
Exactly.
Speaking of love, we love the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, we do. Chris, I know you wrote some beautiful Valentine's Day poems.
Yes, I have a few right here. Let me go into my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start off with Bryce Young. And I just want to say, when you hear this, if you decide to clip me and all that, don't clip me out of context. This is all from a fan perspective, okay?
Yeah, fan
perspective.
Right here.
Right here, fan. We're not going out here. This is here, fan perspective.
Right here.
Bryce Young, you must be a quarterback because you just threw a touchdown pass straight to my heart. Hey, Bryce Young, roses are red, violets are blue. You scramble so well, I'd run after you. Your passes are smooth. Your footwork's elite. If love were a game, you'd never get beat. So this Valentine's Day, I'll make the call. Be mine forever, or at least until football. Should we do another one?
Let's do another one.
Hey, Dave Canales.
Oh.
You must be a play caller because you just dialed up the perfect love play. Roses are red. The defense is shook. My love for you is straight from the playbook.
Panthers Playbook. Subscribe.
Ding, ding, ding. You scheme up success. You lead with a spark. If love had a draft, you'd be my first mark. So this Valentine's, no need to review. Let's run this romance. No fourth down to you. This is all corny.
I love it. I love it, though.
All corny. I do have a one-liner for David Tepper.
Oh, hit me.
You might have a different one-liner. But I'll say, Mr. Tepper, you must be a billionaire because you've invested heavily in my heart. And in concerts in downtown Charlotte.
Yes.
Because it sure hasn't been investing in wins.
No infrastructure, restaurants.
Should we do you want J.C. Horn or do you want Robert Hunt? Which one do you want?
Oh, give me Robert Hunt.
Okay. Are you a pulling guard because you just led the way straight to my heart? Hey, Robert, roses are red. Defenders get spun, but nobody moves me quite like you on the run. You clear the path. You pancake with grace. If love was a blitz, you'd give me a safe space. So this Valentine's, let's make it a feast. No flags, no holding, just love and some beef. But not for me because I'm vegan.
Just that you gotta end on that one right there. Gotta end on that one right there. It's just Chris Lea, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Lea.
This is all fan perspective.
Right
Nothing
here.
else. Fan perspective.
Right here. Right here with that.
Nothing wrong with anything. Like we're very accepting, but
yeah,
fan perspective. Fair fan
right
perspective.
here.
Ally. Straight up ally.
So, Chris, we had a chance, obviously, watch the Super Bowl this past Sunday. Philadelphia Eagles just straight crushing the Kansas City Chiefs. And one thing that we have been pushing for this offseason for Dan Morgan when it comes to the NFL draft with 9 picks and a draft that's loaded with defensive players that play in the front, whether it's interior defensive linemen or edge rushers, or even guys that might be able to play off the ball a little bit as well. People that are around the football when the ball is snapped.
Yeah.
I looked at the Philadelphia Eagles. I went back to the last 4 years of what they drafted in the first 3 rounds. The premium picks, day 1, day 2, rounds 1, 2, and 3. If you go back the last few years, you're looking at 3 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, 3 defensive backs, 3 offensive linemen, all drafted in the first 3 rounds, 1 wide receiver, as well as 1 off-ball linebacker. That's what's been drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. And look what their defense did against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They blitzed 0 times. They just sent 4. They sent 4, and they won because they got drafted and invested in the premium positions on their team. Interior, defensive line, defensive end, offensive line, defensive back, and 1 off-ball linebacker. And guess what? Those dudes made the difference on Sunday.
Absolutely, they did. And let me just say this. This was back in the day before I was here at WRL, anything like that. I'm sorry, when was it? When was Jalen Hurts drafted?
I think he was drafted
in 2019?
He was drafted in 2020.
In 2020. So right as I got to WRL, I wanted the Carolina Panthers to draft Jalen Hurts. I thought that to me, the best idea, keep Cam for his last year of his contract. Remember, he was contracted for 1 more year in 2020. Keep Cam for the last year. Bring in Jalen Hurts to study under Cam for a year.
Yeah,
that's a little bit off topic, but like it was attainable that particular year, and I think that the Carolina Panthers should have done that. And maybe a lot of the picks that they've had to trade away and things like that to finally get to this place where we feel comfortable with Bryce Young at least for another year, they could have already had that. But they didn't do that, right? So there was no real plan there. But I say all that to say those picks that were traded away could have helped build that line on the offensive side and the defensive side. It could have been to do exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles have done. If you think about it, since they last won a Super Bowl, was that 2017, 2018, whatever it was.
Yep.
They've had a couple of down years, but they haven't really fallen off the map. They may have had maybe a 6-win season or whatever, but then they bounced pretty much right back up. And they've had this level of consistency to where they've been right there. And they've been able to have patience with a young quarterback who's not a first rounder. And while insulating him with a very solid offensive line, you had a Pro Bowler retire after last year, and still everything looks good.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're fine because go ahead.
They say one of the guys they drafted, Cam Jurgens, who started at guard, ended up moving to center for Jason Kelsey.
Yep.
And they also in the defensive line, they had Fletcher Cox, no relation. They have Fletcher Cox on the interior of their defensive line, and they still drafted Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, early first-round picks. And so they were still investing in those positions, even though they already had studs there.
And I was going to say, with that same thing that you just said right there, going on the defensive line, they basically looked at Georgia and said, yeah, we want that.
Yeah, pretty much.
And got those guys and brought them into their team. and look where they're at. And they've invested heavily in that. So this is essentially what we need from the Carolina Panthers and what we've been saying, right, on this show. This is a deep defensive line draft. I wouldn't mind if at some point, maybe first round, maybe third round, maybe fourth round, you bring in 3 defensive linemen, one who's a edge rusher, 2 can be in the middle right there to help out Ashawn and Derrick Brown, and you just have a nice little rotation between those guys because it's looking like maybe Shy Tuttle can get cut. In March we'll talk about that if that happens, when it happens. But there's so much that the Carolina Panthers should do just by looking at what the Eagles have done. We got away from that. And this was the good thing about Dave Gettleman. He always talked about the hog mollies, build it up front. You got to look at the line. And that's what he was into. And we kind of got away from that with Marty Herney and Scott Fitterer. We need to get back to that with Dan Morgan and make sure that those guys up front are always stout and together. And I'll point this out really quick. I know I've been long-winded, but the last time the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, why did they lose the Super Bowl? It's because their offensive line got manhandled by another defensive line. And what did they do right after? They invested in the offensive line, came back and won 2 Super Bowls. So now they're going to have to do the same thing all over again. It's just that cycle. Once you keep focusing on that, everything works out from there.
So if you look at the first 3 rounds of the draft over the last 4 years, that same time span of the Eagles were picking and what the Carolina Panthers were drafting. In 2021, they drafted J.C. Horn first round, Terrace Marshall Jr. second round, Brady Christensen, Tommy Tremble. Those were picks all in the first 3 rounds. The year after that, it was Ike Ekwonu, Matt Corral. The year after that, it was Bryce Young, Jonathan Mingo, DJ Johnson. Then this past year was Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks, Trevin Wallace. How many defensive linemen were mentioned there? Okay, there's DJ Johnson's an outside linebacker, edge guy, but how many defensive linemen were right there? Now, I understand in 2020 you drafted Derrick Brown, but
that's the last major one, though. Like, if you think about it, Brady Christensen, Icky, and Derrick Brown are like the last examples we have of the Panthers going big up front in the top 3 on either side of the ball. That's it. And that's not good enough.
No, it's not. And we wonder why this defense struggled this past year, because you haven't had the investment in those positions. And guess what? With the offensive line, Brady Christensen was a backup filling in. He started as a replacement at center, started a couple times for Ike Ekwonu at left tackle. Only Ike Ekwonu really started on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. There's no defensive line starters. DJ Johnson's an edge guy who hasn't really done anything the last couple of years. Like, that's the only real investment that you've had up front. You had to go pay 2 offensive linemen this offseason because you haven't invested in those positions with high draft picks. Yeah, you went and drafted Cade Mays in the 6th round or Chandler Zavala in the 4th round. But we're talking premium draft positions on premium spots. The premium spots being your offensive line, particularly offensive tackle. I know you had Taylor Moton, so you didn't have to worry about that, but particularly offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Offensive line as a whole, defensive line, particularly edge rusher, corner, because guys, you got to have guys that can cover. And obviously the biggest premium position being quarterback, and you've drafted 2 of them in the last 3 years in the first 3 rounds. Matt Corral being a 3rd round pick, didn't even play a snap for you.
Forgot about
that's just
that guy.
A waste of a 3rd round pick. Like, just the thing, you obviously made all the trades to move up to get Bryce Young. There have been, what did we mention as well of those first 3 rounds? 3 wide receivers drafted, actually, first 2 rounds. Terrace Marshall Jr., 2nd round pick. Jonathan Mingo, 2nd round pick. Xavier Legette, 2nd round pick.
And 2 of those guys,
last 4 years,
not even on the roster.
Exactly. This team has to nail the draft. They've got to do it. They've got to do it. And it's got to be an investment on the defense. Focus on the premium positions. Again, go back to Philadelphia. Devontae Smith was the 10th overall pick. Damn good wide receiver. Where'd A.J. Brown come from? They traded for him. Jahan Dotson, their number 3 wide receiver. What'd they do? Traded for him. Where'd Saquon Barkley come from? Free agency.
That's smart franchise right there.
Yeah, right? How'd that work out? Oh, wait, it didn't. Oh, wait, it didn't.
I mean,
And then
shout outs to
obviously-
Daniel Jones. I like my guy, but like that's the guy that you decided to pay?
Yeah.
All right.
And Dallas Goedert's been
Alright.
with the team since 2018, so he was a second-round pick. But the point is being this: they've invested heavily in the premium spots, whereas the Panthers haven't. Simply put.
I think it was maybe Dave Doran up here, NC State's head football coach. I want to say he said this in the 2024 season, maybe 2023. I hope I'm getting the right coach right, but it was in. He said on offense, he's mostly a defensive-minded. No, I'm sorry, no. Was it him? Anyway, I think it was him where he was looking at the offense. He was asked like, what is he looking at on the sideline? And when he's looking down the middle, he was like, I try to just see what the push is up front on either side of the ball. And from there, I can maybe closely determine what will probably happen on that play. If we're on offense and our offensive line is getting pushed back and being manhandled by the defensive line, it's probably not going to be a positive play for us. But if our offensive line is blocking and pushing forward, and especially if it's a run play, it's probably going to be a positive play. And opposite when we're on defense. I believe Dave Doran said that. If I have the wrong guy, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. But it's a good indication as to what is winning football. And using NC State as an example, like their defensive line got pushed around this year, their offensive line kind of got pushed around this year. Look at the results. I know we're talking about professional football, but also, hey, let's look at the Carolina Panthers over the last few years, right? When is the last time the Panthers had a defensive line that really scared you? You're probably going to say names like Charles Johnson and Julius Peppers. You know what I'm saying?
Like scared you?
Like K'Wan Short. Like you're going to say names like that. So it's been a while. When's the last time before this past year that we looked at an offensive line for the Carolina Panthers and said, wow, we have a lot of faith in those guys? Been over 10 years.
Been a minute. Even when you have Brian Burns and Derrick Brown
been over 10
in
years.
the 2023 season, it was still like,
And I would say that the line that that Cam had 14, 15-ish was serviceable, but like it still probably wasn't as good as the line that he had in 11 and 12, I would say. When you still had Jordan Gross. So, it's there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And of course they did it on the offensive line. Now the defensive line needs it, but still, we still have some questions to answer at center. So you can't completely just leave offensive line to its own devices. So I'm excited to see what Dan Morgan does. I think that this Super Bowl for everybody in the NFL will be a wake up call.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, a lot of look at Atlanta. You think that Atlanta should be so much better because of all of that first round, talent that they have in the skill positions. Drake London, Kyle Pitts,
eighth
you know what I'm saying? Like
Bijan
Robinson. You have all these guys that's there, and you would think that it should be the best offense in the NFL. But guess what they don't have? Top lines.
Their defensive line actually gets to the quarterback at a worse rate than the Panthers do.
So, it does make a difference. It really does make a difference.
I think the last time they had a guy with 10 plus sacks for the Atlanta Falcons, I think it was 2016. When the year they went to the Super Bowl. Like that's the last time they had someone get 10 plus sacks in a season. And we think Panthers are starved for pass rushers. Look what Atlanta's dealing with it. So I'm 100% in agreement with you on that one, Chris. It's an investment inside the interior. It's all about, like Dave Canales said, it's all about the ball. You build from there out. You build from that point out.
Yeah. Let's go back to get the hog mollies.
Yeah.
Like our old guy said to us before. Hey, Dennis.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy your Valentine's Day, man.
I hope you enjoy Valentine's Day. You think Cam or Steve Smith is going to send Cam a Valentine?
Like
you know what? Send him some flowers.
Steve Smith, whenever he sends Valentine's Day gifts to other guys, I think it comes in the form of a fist, because my man is not afraid to throw some blows at all.
He's not.
And you know what? Like typically, I'll take Cam in a fight, but versus Steve Smith, I gotta think about it a little bit. Cam's got the height and the reach, but I gotta think about it a little bit.
Yeah, Steve Smith's got that got that it in him.
Just really
He's
quick
got that it factor.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, Cam Newton was on Travis Hunter's podcast and was talking about the pressures of being a number one pick because Travis Hunter could possibly go number one. And so he was saying, hey, when I came into the NFL, I came into a locker room full of losers. And a lot of former teammates of Cam Newton didn't take very kindly to that. I think Jeff Schwartz probably had the best comeback of everybody. He was on the offensive line for the Carolina Panthers. He was like, that same group that went 2-14 was 12-4 a couple years before that. So one, it wasn't a locker room of losers, and Cam came into a locker room with a Pro Bowl offensive lineman and had two running backs and two other offensive linemen who were either all pro or Pro Bowl during his time there. So it wasn't a bum group.
Yeah. I think what rubbed some people the wrong way is that was not that long after we heard him say he wouldn't trade his MVP for the Super Bowl. And I think that rubbed people the wrong way. It's like, well, you wouldn't trade your individual accolade for the team's success, but now you're talking about you had to come into a team full of losers. I think that rubbed some people the wrong way a little bit too. I'm wondering if Cam was maybe just used a poor choice of words and meant to say, I was coming to a locker room for a team that wasn't winning, that was used to losing, that just come off a losing record. But like he said, a couple years before that, they were 12-4.
He has a history of using a poor choice of words in the moment. I think he has a hard time knowing what's coming out of his mouth before it does. I think he lets his intrusive thoughts kind of come out. Same thing like why he got in trouble with the whole Jordan Roderick thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like he just kind of doesn't think about what he's saying. But I might ruffle some feathers. I'm not sure I disagree. I'm not saying I all the way agree with him. I'm not sure I disagree with Cam on the trading the MVP for the Super Bowl part. I'm not sure I disagree with that. But I will say, Cam, don't call your guys losers because also Steve Smith made a good point. He kind of has been going in on the Panthers, which Panthers have deserved it in some ways. But it makes that that reunion at some point when he does go into the Ring of Honor and when his jersey is retired, it makes that get pushed back just a little bit more. There needs to be a few more conversations to happen. And I hope that everything can get back together because we need our family to be together and still keep going.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Love you, Chris.
Hey, I love you too. Dennis Jamel Cox.
We also love you. So make sure you subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And thanks to all of you. No, in all seriousness, thanks to everyone that does subscribe, does leave comments. We really do love the interactions. So, Chris, enjoy your Valentines. You out there, enjoy your Valentines. And we'll see you all next week.